House and packed my parka thinking it was going to rain, but apparently it's just going to be kind of chilly and cool as you would expect it to be this time of the year. But the Ravens are anything but chilly and cool, and if they keep this up, all those national writers are going to find out about them, including my friend Nate Davis, who joins us live via satellite. He is by Nate Davis out on Twitter. There's a lovely image of the 4 Irish lads and the Joshua tree on the front of his Twitter, and of course you can find him at usatoday.com covering all things NFL. Hey, they're going to be talking about this Ravens defense. They keep taking the ball away 5 times a week, right?
Yeah, up to 8 picks already after week 2 game. I mean, and you would think that facing Blake Bortles in the next one might let them pad that total a little bit. So, yeah, this defense is definitely looking like worthy of the vintage Ravens defenses, and given the fact that the offense keeps losing bodies, I think it's going to have to be.
Well, we're trying to figure out the Jaguars as much as you're trying to figure yourself out, right? 2 games into this, we're smelling ourselves on defense and feeling good. And Justin Tucker hasn't had to come out and kick game-winning field goals, and Joe Flacco hasn't had to lead a game-winning drive on the road in Oakland or Tennessee or Green Bay, which we're going to get to all of that. But Marshall Yanda, guys like you that cover the game at a deep level go further than just stats. And Marshall Yanda's a guard. Any of the interior linemen, other than sacks on the defensive side or pancakes on the offensive side. But the loss of Marshall Yanda, I don't know that we know what this is going to look like because we're not used to this. But it's certainly going to be some patchwork in progress for this offense, which was already sort of kind of challenged, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Nestor. And I think probably nationally, given the way that we're focused on fantasy football and offense and guys that sack the quarterback or pick it off on defense. We don't appreciate the lunch bucket guys like Marshall Yanda enough. But I think when all is said and done, he's going to be a guy that if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer going into Canton one of these days, I think he's going to go in eventually at some point. I mean, he's probably been the best guard in the game the last few years. Unfortunately, it's a good way to make money, but it's not a great way to generate headlines or have people really appreciate what you do on a daily basis. But that one's probably going to hurt as much as anything the Ravens have lost. Given all their mass unit problems over the last 3 months now.
Well, you get to watch it work. I mean, we'll see the differences, and certainly for the defense, we've seen the difference a pass rush makes. And in the case of Terrell Suggs, Nate, I have never been an advocate of Terrell Suggs or thinking that I would be arguing for his Hall of Fame inclusion. But what he's done the first 2 weeks here, and I know we've seen Steve Smith do this a couple of years here in the September of his days, but this has been very, very impressive, and I think folks are taking note. I mean, he could have easily had 3-4 sacks on Sunday against Cleveland. He has been hot after the quarterback, looking like a much younger man right now. And I tell you what, the whole pass rush around him, the way they stop the run, and then the way the defense can go get the ball when the ball's in the air, this has been a nice little recipe, but it really has been led by Terrell Suggs.
Yeah, and interesting that, this was the year he kind of picked to really fully buy into the off-season program. He's lighter than he's been in a couple of years, and like you said, he's certainly not playing like a guy who's 35 years old. It certainly seems like he's maybe he's got whatever James Harrison's using to kind of defy age and go back to the fountain of youth. But and we've heard Ray Lewis talk about it. So this guy, for whatever reason, it took this long, but it seems like he's fully invested, in his craft. When we know about all of Terrell's outside interests with movies and all that, but it seems like he's ready at the age of 35 to be the guy who steps up and leads this defense, 24/7, 365, and we're seeing the results on the field. And like you said, very, very, very impressive. And I think probably the big question at this point will all that conditioning and time he put in the offseason to take care of his body finally translate into letting him play a full 16-game season, because they're going to need him.
Well, we're going to need them all in Jacksonville this weekend, and certainly rested and hydrated, and John Harbaugh's talking sports science, and, of course, the Ravens are releasing April Fool's jokes about taking a boat of all things over to London, that John Harbaugh had to dispute that at Monday's press conference after being 2-0, but the Jaguars have certainly been Jekyll and Hyde, getting to a London and a British-based reference there. Week 1, you think, wow, maybe we don't want to see the Jaguars in Week 3. After Week 2, and certainly the inability to run the ball and stop the run and falling behind and having to throw the ball. To your point, Blake Bortles likes to throw interceptions, and our guys like to go get them. Maybe this is a really happy 9-hour flight home on Monday for all of our Ravens fans making the journey.
Well, we'll see. I think you overlook the Jags probably at your peril. Like you said, they are a Jekyll and Hyde team, and I think you look at the 2 games they played. They got a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, and I look at the fact that in Week 1, they matched up against what's probably the worst offensive line in the game. We saw the results against Houston, the 10 sacks, the big turnovers, et cetera. In Sunday's game, they matched up against what may be the best offensive line in the game. All due respect to the Cowboys, the Tennessee Titans have built quite a front 5 in their own right, and they really didn't do much against those guys. Titans ran the ball down their throat. Really caught fire kind of after a slow beginning to that game, a slow first half, and got steamrolled. So, kind of referencing back to the Marshall Yanda injury, how are the Ravens going to be up front? Incorporating a new body into probably the key spot in their O line, and then how do they deal with all these bodies and athletes the Jags have on defense? So to me, that's probably going to be the biggest matchup of the game. Is maybe how does that Jags front 7 line up against the Ravens blocking?
I don't know that there's been any stupid, crazy shocks. Maybe the Patriots losing in Week 1, but I wouldn't want to say it's all chalk, but a lot of 1-1, a couple of 0-2 teams that you would expect there to be. I haven't seen anything that has been wildly crazy. I mean, maybe the Panthers being back up at 2-0 after last year sort of turning in a turd at that point. But the Raiders have been as advertised. Even the Titans at 1-1 have been as advertised. So far so good here for most of these teams, and I don't think other than the handful of Jets and 49ers and maybe the Bills at some point, the Bears look awful as well, that there are only a handful of really bad teams. There's going to be a lot of hovering going on this year, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. We've kind of seen that stat probably floated around. Teams that start 0-2 and 1-1, you still got a pretty good shot. I think a 60% shot of making the playoffs. Since the league realigned back in 2002. And you're probably right. Not a ton of surprises. Maybe the biggest surprise that I've taken away so far is the Broncos hanging that 42-17 beat down on the Cowboys on Sunday. I thought they might win that game. In fact, I picked them to win that game, but I certainly didn't think they were going to run away with it like that, and I didn't think the Cowboys would roll over the way they did. So that's about the biggest surprise I've seen so far. It looks like the Broncos can actually play offense in addition to having that excellent defense they do. So, like you said, 3 teams 2-0 in the AFC West right now. I think that's going to be a tough division. But overall, it looks like we've got the usual parity that we're used to. And overall, it looks like given the kind of the widespread level of play, maybe not being great, you're kind of seeing that CBA effect on the beginning of the season, where September doesn't affect our preseason anymore.
The power rankings rank the Broncos number 1, right, based on that huge victory. But, hey, I'll tell you what, Atlanta was also impressive, right? And also the concession prices there were also impressive, which I like down there as well. But, they've responded nicely after the biggest blunder rolling over in Super Bowl history, right?
Yeah, I think so. They weren't real impressive against the Bears in week one as we saw, and then we given what we saw, what happened in Chicago against Tampa, maybe you look back at that a little more and wonder why the Falcons couldn't blow them out. But they certainly looked better in the first half Sunday against the Packers. I kind of was wondering at some point there in the second half, when the Packers kind of get back into it, are we going to see another meltdown here? And certainly losing Vic Beasley, their star pass rusher, the NFL sack leader last year for a month, isn't going to help. But overall, I think you're right. You can't complain about a 2-0 start. And certainly for a team that everyone wanted to talk about that proverbial Super Bowl hangover. I would say that they've had their hot shower and their cup of coffee. It looks like the hangover is gone as they kind of get into the meat of the schedule here.
He is Nate Davis of USAtoday.com. He is an editor and a writer there, doing a lot of editing these days. You can find him out on Twitter at BY Nate Davis, like a byline, which I had a few of those back in my newspaper days as well. For writing about this at a distance and talking about the league and how much money it makes, and clearly I'm getting on a plane, and there's probably going to be 10,000 other Ravens fans here this week that are getting on a plane to go over to London and maybe see the Pink Floyd exhibition or walk Abbey Road or get on a red bus or join us on Saturday at 11 o'clock at our party at the Fox at XL over in the East London Docklands area, taking our cable car over the Thames and all that stuff. We're doing all this stuff, and there'll be 70,000 real paying customers customers in London, halfway around the world to see the NFL, and yet the Chargers move 80 miles up the freeway into a toy erector set stadium, and the Rams move across the country to go to L.A., and the stands are empty. And San Francisco, the stands are empty. And if this game were in Jacksonville, the stands would be empty this week. And you know, it really is fascinating that I'm going to be sitting in London with people filling up a stadium, and they can't figure out how to make this thing go in Los Angeles, and they've been there 10 minutes after not being there for 30 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Los Angelinos obviously, you know, I know a couple of them. They're still fickle. You know, they want to know that their entertainment dollar is being stretched to the max. They're going to see a good product. You know, in San Diego, like you said, they're playing in the soccer stadium. They've got a kicker who can't shoot straight when it counts. You know, they're 0-2 to start out with. So I think the burden of proof obviously on them, and you know, at this point, seems like their hopes that a lot of their friends from lower Southern California and Orange County and all that might follow them up to LA, not coming to fruition so far. And you know, I think same thing with the Rams. Good team, not great team, but I think to some extent those people in Los Angeles are looking forward to the Pleasure Palace that's going to get built here in a couple of years, and are waiting for that because you know in both instances neither one of these teams looks like they're probably going to be more than a 500 outfit this year, and you know that just doesn't sell in LA.
He is Nate Davis. You can find him at Buy Nate Davis out at USA Today, as well as out on Twitter. You know, I guess from a standing standpoint, you mentioned the Los Angeles Chargers. That still does not roll off the tongue, bro.
No.
But all three teams 2-0 in that division specifically, and maybe as expected, the Chiefs certainly better than advertised and beating up on the Patriots. As you pointed out, the Broncos with a huge win, a quality win over the Cowboys, and the Raiders went on the road to Tennessee, where, you know, I think that Tennessee team's going to win 10 games, primarily because they have 6 of them against the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Colts, who all look to pretty much stink, quite frankly. And even in our division, 2-0 at the top and 0-2 at the bottom, the separation in some of these divisions is going to be there. But I have no idea how this Broncos-Raiders-Chiefs thing's going to work out. But I think they're all capable of winning 10 games.
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, probably the problem is going to be when they get into the division part of the schedule and they start beating up on each other, which you know hasn't happened yet. But that's probably going to separate the men from the boys there. But, you know, if they keep playing the way they are, it could definitely be an instance where that division is sending, you know, 3 teams to the playoffs. But we've kind of seen in the past, it looks like, you know, the Broncos have more trouble with the Raiders these days, and an elite quarterback like Derek Carr. Doesn't seem like the Raiders can ever beat the Chiefs. And then, you know, the Chiefs seem to have trouble with the Broncos. So it kind of reminds me of those old NFC East days when it was the Eagles, the Redskins, and the Giants, and one team would always beat up on the other, and you kind of had this vicious cycle going on. But yeah, I mean, overall, again, I think we all kind of went into the season thinking that's probably the division to keep an eye on. And yeah, despite what I just said about the Chargers, I mean, they are this close to being 2-0, and I think, you know, the talent level on that team is there. Rookie head coach, you know, some new parts there, but I think if that defense gets going, they've got the bodies to do something, you know, special there. This team still isn't dead either, so keep an eye on the Chargers also in that division.
You know what's crazy is they put the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. Shouldn't the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame be in London? I'm just saying. I don't, you know, I'm not saying anything politically, but like, wouldn't that like I'm going to London? I feel like you need to do rock and roll stuff, Nate. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You're a rock and roll guy.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Beatles guy, but of course I wasn't born in the '60s. I am a huge Led Zeppelin guy, so I think I'd be okay with that, Nestor. At least having an annex or auxiliary place there, that would be all right.
Nate, how about this? A little piece of rock and roll history, because it's been more than a decade now, so you probably could, you know, get the classic put on it. Zeppelin's only played one show in this century. They played it at the O2 Arena, and that's where our party is ending. You know, we're taking the cable car over the River Thames, and we're doing a march to the O2 Arena from the cable car, all in purple with our Ravens fans on Saturday afternoon around 3, 4 o'clock, and we're ending it where Zeppelin ended their thing. So that's not a, you know, that there's a little rock and roll history going on there. How about that?
Yeah, well, good show. I believe Jason Bonham stood in for his dad in that show, and yeah, I've got that one on my iPod, and certainly they sounded good enough to me for guys that were in their 60s at that point. But you know, last time I remember seeing those guys, they were happy to see Hart doing "Stairway to Heaven" at their Kennedy Center honor. So. You know, obviously, I think they're not into the whole Stones thing and go until their 70s, and then obviously missing a key member there. I always respected those guys for kind of deciding to retire, if you will, once they were not their organic 4-man unit. But good to have that show back in '07. I suspect it's probably the last one we're going to see from them.
Stones are playing in Italy on Saturday night, by the way, and they're also playing in Barcelona on Wednesday. And yes, I considered it, but I got fish to fry. Nate, it's Steelers week here next week. You know what I mean? Like, we come back off this Jacksonville, London, all the fun we're going to have, and all the beer we're going to drink, and fish and chips and mushy peas and all that stuff. And then we're going to come back and play the Steelers, and then go to Oakland. So we better come back off this plane trip 3-0. We're going to be needing to pad our record here as we get going. Hey, always great to talk football with you, man. We're going to send everybody out to usatoday.com as well as at By Nate Davis to follow your work, and we'll check back in again later on in the year, and hopefully we continue to get some good news out of Camp Purple around here.
Sounds good, buddy. Enjoy London.
We shall indeed. Nate Davis joining us here from USA Today. You can find us out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. If there's any breaking news, we had, of course, the awful news on Marshall Yanda and in the aftermath of the victory over the Browns on Sunday. You get it first. I can't always promise it's good news, but it is breaking news, and there's never spam. We don't do those sort of things. We are WNST.net, and it is the text service, and you sign up at WNST.net easily. 68255. Just text WNST to that number. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. That is the SSV on WNST, the Sunday Sports Voice. Don't let the name fool you. It's now heard on Thursdays from 3 until 5. We'll be crossing the River Thames and having fun at the Fox at XL Pub this Saturday from 11 until 2:52. All the details up at WNST.net. We'd love to see your face in the place. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me on either side of the pond via email. I am a very available individual. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.